3% of households do not earn sufficient income to meet the basic needs. And we know that the pandemic didn't help that situation. We know that these numbers are probably most likely going to be a lot higher than they were, or than are stated, because of the effects of the pandemic. So it's going to be really important for us in the next year or so to start really redoing some of these surveys, start really tracking this data again, so that we can actually have a more updated and more accurate and realistic data in terms of what's affecting us in LA County. Next slide. Another domain that we looked at was about children, youth, and families. And as you know, Best Start really, our focus, as you know, we're funded by First 5 LA. And really our focus is, how are we going to make our community a healthier community for our families and our children in the Antelope Valley, but really starting at 0 to 5, because we've seen, and the research has shown, that if you start bringing resources, identifying needs, targeting some of these needs at that young age, that it leads to better school rates, testing rates, graduation rates for children as we go along. So really, it isn't that we only care about the 0 to 5, but if we start the work there, then it becomes a domino effect, and it just keeps going. So that's how we kind of look at it. We really, we saw that that 46% of children in Palmdale were born to foreign parents. That means that we have a pretty large immigrant community within the Antelope Valley. In LA County, children born to foreign parents was 57%. So we're a little bit below LA County, but I think it still shows in terms of between Palmdale and Lancaster. Palmdale has the 46%, while Lancaster has 19%. And then in terms of children living below the federal poverty threshold, 24% of children in Palmdale are living below that poverty threshold. 31% are living below that in Lancaster, while in LA County, only 23% are living below the threshold, and in all of California, only 20% are living below the poverty threshold. So our number, especially for that Lancaster number, is astronomical, and it's obviously concerning and sobering in terms of, like, what are we doing? What resources are we bringing to get these kids and these families and these parents above that federal poverty threshold? Some of the other data that we found, in terms of pertaining to children, youth, and families, is that 31% of children in Palmdale and 28% of children in Lancaster are living in low-income working families, meaning that both parents, single parents, but the entire family really is bringing in income that is way, way lower than the median income in LA County or California, for that matter. We also saw that 26% of the households in Lancaster are composed of single parents, in comparison to 22% in all of LA County. So again, it just continues to show our numbers at a higher rate than even the whole LA County. Next slide, please. Okay. So I'm going to turn off, you're going to hear me, but I'm going to turn off the camera just so that you can be, it can be a little more stable and it doesn't cut out much, okay? But I'll still be here. And then, so the next one that we did was the education data map. Now this one really, for me, this one was one that just threw me for a loop, just the kind of stats and the information. As you remember at the beginning when we had our icebreaker, we talked a little bit about, or Omar asked, what were the graduation rates, for high school graduation rates in the Antelope Valley? And to see that our graduation rate is 67%, that's the average, while LA County has a graduation rate of 82%. It's disheartening. I think, obviously, like I said, if we start setting in place resources, assessments, support to get the kids at an early age into school reading, really taking part of absorbing the education system, we're going to lead, that'll lead, if we do that at the 0 to 5 age, it'll lead to better third grade reading levels. And the research has shown that if a child has meets the average third grade reading level, that they tend to be more likely to graduate from high school and not go down the juvenile justice or the justice system pipeline. So we really need to, obviously bring resources for that kind of work. But in terms of even talking about this for third grade reading levels or proficiency in math, only 24% of children in the Antelope Valley were proficient in math, and these numbers came from the 2021 school year. Again, that was mid-pandemic. The reality is that some of the numbers may be missing, even in terms of how many kids were actually not even in school during this time, how many kids were missing out of being surveyed. So the percentage can actually be a little bit higher than that. And one of the sobering numbers is 1 out of 5 third graders is sufficient in math. And 1 out of 10 Black students scored proficiency in math. In comparison to overall passing scores, you have the Antelope Valley with a 25% overall passing score, while the rest of LA County is at 37%. Again, these are sobering numbers that clearly are waving a flag at us that this is an important area that we need to be looking at. We also saw that in terms of even education, that children that were in foster care tended to be the children with the highest numbers of suspensions and also being absent in school. Another area that we saw was that very low numbers of teachers in the Antelope Valley are actually teachers of color. And what that clearly, demonstrates or emphasizes is that research has shown that children that are being taught by teachers that they can identify with, that they look like, tend to do a lot better and tend to actually be willing to participate with that specific teacher. So if you have the majority of teachers that don't look like you and aren't, they can't maybe understand the culture, or maybe not sure of how to relate with them, it also tends to have an issue when it comes to education and participation within the school system. Next slide. Then we did the environment, and I think this one, and you all can correct me, this one was a little bit of a shocker to many of us, right? Because we talked about air quality, and to find out how high of a percentile we are in terms of pollution within the Antelope Valley, it was really scary. And the other thing that Omar mentioned too is about why we have asthma and other respiratory diseases so high here in the Antelope Valley, because our air quality, it's pretty bad. I think one of the things that also stood out was that it's that it's an estimated that 2.1 million number of Californians live within 1 mile of a well, of an oil or gas well. And the thing about that is we don't even know where they are underneath us. We could be walking over them every day and wouldn't know. Our house could be on top of it. We wouldn't know. And so it was, we know that in Palmdale certified, there's 5 oil wells, and in Lancaster, there's 6. But really, just more importantly, we also realized that many of our residents may not even be aware that we need to do things like some of the healthy practices to have is, for example, changing our air filters constantly in our apartments or our houses, or all our dwellings. And because having a healthy and consistent change of filters really then also helps our breathing quality and our air quality within our house. And there was other things of other medical issues that can come up for when you have bad environments or bad air quality, cardiovascular diseases, and including cancer. So there was really a lot of information around that. And then we also saw that in comparison, Lancaster tends to be a little bit healthier in terms of healthy conditions, a little bit healthier than Palmdale. Lake LA, even less healthier than both Palmdale and Lancaster. And really the healthier area to live in is Quartz Hill, is what the data showed. So that was just some of the environmental issues that we had. And then if we can go to the next slide. Okay. We froze a little bit, but that's okay. There we go. Then we talked about health, and really what we saw was that there were some numbers that were a little surprising in terms of how many people have health care, how many people are insured. And those numbers seems to be pretty high. The problem with that is we can be insured all we want, but if we don't have medical facilities or clinics or health centers to provide the care, then that's one of the bigger issues that we see here in the Antelope Valley, especially in some of our outer areas like Lake LA, that Wilsona area, that there really is such a lack of healthcare providers. And then you throw in the transportation issue. It just seems like things just keep getting impacted left and right by other factors that continue to show that we need that we have, why we have higher levels of poor physical health, or like there was a thing about it's not on this page, but there was another on one of the other pages that basically our mortality rates for people of an older age, that their rates were a lot higher here in the Antelope Valley to most likely die by the age of 67 than it would be in all of LA County. Now, these are conditions that obviously need to be addressed. We need more awareness in terms of healthy nutritional guides. We need accessibility to better foods, to better healthcare centers, to better providers. So that was one of the things that came out in this specific data, Matt. Next slide. And then we did housing, and housing was huge because we are all aware of how we have very, very high, a high number of individuals and families that are unhoused at the moment. And also the number, you compare the number of people that are unhoused and the sad reality that there isn't really a shelter in Palmdale, shelter in Lancaster. There's the the shelter that's over out by the prison, but there isn't a shelter for families. And so a lot of our families then have to be put up in hotels, and some of these hotels are not the best places where you want to have families. So we have a lot of that. We also saw a lot of racial and economic inequities in housing. Obviously, we continue to see that, again, comparing it from the east side of Palmdale to the west side of Palmdale. We also saw some of the other median rents are just astronomical. Again, the median rent in West Palmdale is $1,768. Now, mind you, this is data from 2017 to 2021. What does it actually look like now? And many people in our jobs or that we know of people that are looking for places to live. Number one is that there's not a lot of accessibility. We've run out basically of places for people to move into or to live in. And the rents are just going up more and more. But to say that the median rent in West Palmdale is $1,700, I would guess to that at this point in time it's closer to $2,000 to over $2,000 a month. And then we also saw that that in Palmdale, 48% of households consisted of families with children, which in comparison to the rest of LA County, that number is only 33%. So we have a high number of households with children. Next slide. And then we also did the justice and crime, and obviously this, I think it's a huge issue, and we see it more and more. We see it with the cases that continue to happen within the Antelope Valley, the continued emphasis on arrests and targeting of communities of color. Obviously, we know that continues to happen, but really just the number of stops and the basically 1.3 times more for Hispanics and 1.4 times more for African Americans are killed by police than white men. And then 1 in 1,000 men and boys, Black men and boys, will be killed by police in the course of their lives. So these numbers are, again, in my view, they're unacceptable. And we also see that Black men and Hispanic men are more likely to be searched and receive higher numbers of post-stop citations and arrests than you would the white population. So again, these numbers continue to get higher and higher. But we also know that one of the things that we also took into consideration was that in spite of these numbers, we also know that in our area here in the Antelope Valley, the sheriff's department is very shorthanded. So where you would have, maybe 40, 50 sheriffs on shift at one time, you may find yourself, or we may find ourselves that we only have 15, 20 at that point. And you're talking about an entire department then having to focus on an entire Antelope Valley, which is so spread out. And so, it's huge. And so we constantly hear like nobody gets here in time, the cops never show up, but we have to look at that. Not only are they spread thin, but they are also being mandated to do at least 30 hours of overtime per pay period. And so imagine you're already spread thin in the work that you're doing. You're exhausted because you're working extra hours. So there's other issues and other sides that we need to take into consideration too, as we're looking at some of this data. Next slide, please, Steph. So we'll leave it there. So as you see, there was a lot of data, and I kind of just ran through it now just as a review. Again, we will share it all with you. But really, one of the things that we want to start thinking about is how are we going to then prioritize what domain we want to do? So I know in the past we have talked about whether we were going to have one community change agenda or two. Currently we have two, but I want to be really, I want to put this out there with everybody, because the work that has to come from this is, so if we take an issue, okay, and you can click it. We take the issue and then go ahead and click in. And then we add to that all the data that we have to look for. And then we add to that what policy is affecting it out there. And then we add to that the community projects that have to come out of that. Okay, and all that equals our community change agenda. So to think about, if we wanted to do more than one community change agenda, we would have to really think as a whole, do we have the capacity, the amount of people? Do we have, or would we be able to be productive in having two agendas or having one? Again, there's a lot of work that goes into it. You are all volunteers. You all come to this meeting. You all come to participate in Best Start as a volunteer. Now think about it. If we're doing two agendas, you're going to see this times two is what we would do. So one of the things that we wanted to, start thinking about as we move into prioritizing what area we want to look at is, I think first is as a community, as a partnership, really think about whether we want to do two community change agendas or one community change agenda. We will be sending out a survey after the meeting that's going to ask that question. And then at our next meeting, we'll give out the results of the survey as to what you as a partnership wants to do, if you want to do two community change agendas or one. And I know that when we looked at those data mats, I mean, we really can tell that all of that information, all of those different domains, they are important. But we've got to look at like how we're gonna pick what we're doing. So if you can go to the next slide, Steph. So one of the things that we're going to do is we have to have a criteria process. And why is it important to have a criteria process? Number one is that it'll give us the clear understanding of what the issue is, what we're trying to get through. And as we do this criteria process, there's some questions that we're going to ask ourselves. And right now it's just a preview of this. In the next meeting, we're going to have an actual voting on what domains we want to look at and whether we're going to choose two or one. Again, that we'll be able to say that at the next meeting. If you can go to the next part. So there's several questions that we need to ask ourselves as we start thinking about which domain is the most important to you. Question number one is, will this issue have a great impact on the Antelope Valley? Is it really something that maybe we're seeing here that we're not seeing in anywhere else? Next question. Go ahead. Oh, okay. Question number two is, does the data that's out there demonstrate a high priority in the Antelope Valley? And then next question is, are there policies or issues or bills or law that's underway that's addressing this issue? And then the next question is, are there other partners or organizations focusing on the same issue in the Antelope Valley? And then the fifth question is, have others working on this issue experienced barriers or challenges? So as we start looking, we're going to send out a sheet that has all these questions, giving you a little bit of homework. And then looking at the different data mats, you're going to be able to answer some of these questions to each one of the data mats. And based on your answers and based on how strong you feel about an issue, then when we come back to vote on what priority you would like to focus on, you'll be able to have just a much more informed way of picking what you want to pick. Is there any questions around this before we move on to this? like I said, we will be sharing the sheet with everybody that has the questions. We will be sharing all the data mats again, both English and in Spanish. And we ask that everybody take a look at, as we come to vote on August 3rd, take a look at what domain we feel as a partnership that we want it to be our priority. Next slide. So if there aren't any questions, do you know if there's any questions in the chat? No. Okay. So one of the things that we want to talk about is that we know and we've seen that people, our community is still struggling from a lot of the effects of the pandemic, and that came to utilities. We know that there is a high number of community members that are struggling with catching up with some of the utilities. We've seen that a lot of people have struggled, especially with Edison bills. We know that the rates for Edison and for the gas company skyrocketed during the pandemic, and people are still struggling with that. Well, we have an opportunity right now that you can go to the next slide, please. We have an opportunity where we can help our community members. And we have 75 gift cards that we can provide to families that are in need within our partnership. And so what we wanted to do is we have the opportunity to give a gift card, like a Visa card that has $300. And in order to get that $300, we have to have a copy of one bill or several bills that all add up to $300, and that it must be current, that it shows that these are the utilities that are owed. And if we can get a copy of those bills, then we could set up a pickup point for the families. And so we're asking, right now we have, there's approximately about 20 people here. And so what we're asking is that if every one of you can nominate 2 families. Now, if you are one of those families that are struggling as well, then please definitely nominate yourself as well there. And what we're doing is that you'll send us a bill that shows the name and address of the person. The bill has to show the address and the name. And it could only be one person per household. And we need this kind of information. As you see here, we're going to need obviously name, an email address, phone number, household number, and then the number of children 0 to 5 in the household. We will send out this form along with everything else after this meeting. But we also need the nomination forms to be returned to us along with the copies of the bills. And you could just take a snapshot with your phone of the bill and email that. We definitely need to have the nominations by August 1st. And it'll be, first come, first serve, really. And then we plan to distribute the cards no later than August 21. And like I said, this is for families that are really still struggling to catch up with some of that, whether during the pandemic they might have lost their job or just other issues that happen that really set them back on some of the utilities. The only utilities that are eligible are water, Edison, gas, and trash. So again, I hope that we're going to be able to provide this help to 75 families out here in the Antelope Valley. And I don't know if anybody has any questions regarding this. They have to live in the Antelope Valley. Yeah. Oh.
Do they have to, whoever they refer, do they tell them who referred them? Like the names,
well, the person that referred them will know because it'll come from their email. The question was, does the person refer, do we have to get the name of the person referring if they're not the recipient? We'll know it on the email when they submit the documentation. Okay. Any other questions that anybody has?
Sylvia, this is Martha. Question, because of purpose of confidentiality, at times we cannot share information immediately. Is there any way that maybe the families, because I would like to share this information with one of my families like as soon as possible. But is there any possibility that you guys have a link that they can apply directly in the event that I don't get their authorizations on time?
Well, we can do, what we can do instead is we can set up a meeting point with them to be able to get them direct without having to email their bill or any of that. We can get the email direct or the bill directly from them, and we'll have them sign out for the card, and then at least avoid any kind of emailing of confidential information.
Yes, so will you send
Would
that
that
information
help?
after, or how will that work?
So if you want to nominate, you can give them the best start. They email their name and number, and then Stephanie will be in contact with them to set up a meeting place.
Okay, you break down. I'm gonna repeat what I think I heard. That I had to give my families the beststarav@all4kids.org email, and they can send a directive there. Is
Yeah,
that what
Stephanie's gonna put it in the chat. What'll happen is, yeah, if they email Stephanie, we can set up either the pickup or drop off without having to go through an email.
Okay, this is great. Thank you so much for sharing.
Absolutely. So yeah, we think that this is a great opportunity to be able to help out, because the reality and what we've seen and it just having conversations with people, again, the rates for Edison and gas went up so much during the pandemic, and now that if we go back to the economy data, Matt, and our families are below the poverty level, then what are they facing? They have to choose, like, do I pay my Edison bill or am I going to feed my kids? It's a lot of people are in that situation right now. So we want to at least be able to help a little bit with that. So that's another project that we're going to be doing. Next slide. Okay. So we have some upcoming events that we want to share with everybody, and that we want to let you know about. And just to go back a little bit real quick, you don't have to go back. No, you can go ahead. In terms of this opportunity, the nomination form will go out to just the people that are here, because that way we want to make sure that you have the opportunity to nominate. Next thing, a huge project that we've been working on for about a year, and we've been working with Catalyst California and working with a lot of our community here. The State of the Child of the AV report is ready. It has been finally, it's getting printed. It is here, all our information. We were really lucky that we had a lot of community members that took part in guiding the report, from guiding in terms of what areas to look at, what research we needed. And so we were really, really excited about that. So you'll also be receiving this flyer. We are going to be presenting it in person. We are going to be at the Hilton Garden. I got cut off, right? Okay, so let me start again real quick. Just we're going to be at the Hilton Garden Inn in Palmdale by the mall. And if you see on the flyer, if you click where it says RSVP here, it'll take you directly to the link to register for it. And we're also going to put it in the chat right now, so that if you want to link directly to it. So we'll be having the report presented. There'll be a Q&A. Lots of yummy appetizers, because it's that time of the day that we're going to need to put a little sustenance in us. And but we'd love to invite all of you to come. We have room for about 100 people. So register, join us. We're really excited about this. Next slide. And in October, we're going to do another round of the trauma-informed masterclass. The last time we did it in a 6-month period. And then we did the train the trainer in June in person. And both classes were amazing. Doing it in person really adds another more value to it. So what we're going to do in October is we are going to do 3 days of the trauma-informed masterclass. And then if you are interested in becoming a trainer, there's going to be 2 days of train the trainer. So it would be like a whole week. But if you only want to do the trauma-informed masterclass, it would be for 3 days. So we're going to do it all in person. It's a phenomenal class. It's something that's very needed. And I think many of us who've already taken the masterclass and the train the trainer, we could talk about how we can apply this to our lives, to our families, to our friends. But it really is a phenomenal training. And then our good friend Danielle is coming back, to engage with diversity, equity, and inclusion. And her workshops are amazing as well. She has added a few more workshops. So we'll be starting those in September, and we'll be sending out the flyer that has the dates and times of every single workshop. So stay tuned for that. We're excited about both of these things. Next slide. And again, just to remind you, follow us. We're on Facebook, we're on YouTube, we're on Instagram, and we are on Linktree. So please follow us. And just we like to keep everyone updated as to the activities that are happening, but also we share events that are happening from all of our other partners and collaborating organizations. And next slide. And if you want to connect with us, here's our scan. You could scan this QR code for our Linktree that really will tell you all the classes, all the workshops, all the work that's happening through Best Start. You'll be able to get it there. And just want to give a little opportunity. I know that you poor people had to listen to me for a long time today, but tell me if you want to put it in the chat, or if you want to get off mute. Just some reflections. What stood out to you today? How are you feeling about what's the work that's coming up?
Feliz con toda la información.
Gracias, Irma. Irma stated she's happy with all the information that's being shared. Kelly, give me a closing thought.
Let's keep thinking of new and innovative ideas, exciting ideas, and let's just keep working together. The more we talk and keep getting things out, the better, because a lot of times things are secret. People don't want to talk about their issues, and that's the only way we can help, is if you tell the truth and let's help each other.
Keep talking.
Keep
Thank
talking.
you. Thank you, Kelly. Anyone else? Is there anything in the chat, Steph? No. Well, I'm super excited that there was also a lot of new members. We also have continued strategizing how we can support each other as a community. Absolutely, Flora. Great idea. But there was many of you who are new to our meeting. We're thankful that you were here with us. To all our regulars, please keep coming back. We've got more work ahead of us. We've got a lot of good stuff coming up. And we also ask if you could please take our survey. It's in the chat, and it's really important to take the survey so that you tell us what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong, what we could do differently. And just we want to hear your thoughts. Carla, excited for the coming months. I look forward to continuing to spread the word about Best Start. Thank you, Carla. It means a lot. And Joseph, okay. Oh, it sounds exciting. I look forward to working with you in the future. Thanks, Joseph. I know this was your first meeting, so I appreciate you joining us and look forward definitely to more collaboration and more community work. Next slide, please. And with that, we want to say thank you, thank you, thank you. Spending the time with us. You're the reason why the work is happening. You're the reason that, you know, we really want to emphasize that it's for the community, by the community. So we're very thankful for your voice, for your work, and all your support and help with all of the work that we're doing. So everybody have a wonderful day. Thank you, and we will see you in 2 weeks. Or before, on the 1st. Join us for the State of the Child report. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too.
Muchas gracias.